Here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, guys. Good morning over there.
Good morning, Jenny.
We are about to delve into some extremely interesting topics.
Very interesting and very difficult to talk about.
Yeah, well said.
Difficult to talk about, important to talk about, and we're going to do our best here today on Undisputed. And we begin with the latest surrounding LeBron James. After learning more details about the Ma'Khia Bryant shooting in Columbus, Ohio, LeBron apologized yesterday after posting a photo of the officer involved with the caption that read, "You're next." According to reports and body cam footage that was released, Bryant was charging another woman with a knife before the fatal shooting. LeBron's apology read, quote, "Anger does none of us any good, and that includes myself. Gathering all the facts and educating does, though. My anger still is here for what happened to that little girl. My sympathy for her family, and may justice prevail." Shannon, was LeBron's initial tweet out of bounds?
He was right to take it down. Skip, right now, America, especially Black America, is in a heightened sense. We got to be careful, though, that every time a police shooting and it involves a Black, that we put them all into George Floyd. We put them all into Dante Price. I think his name is Dante Price, the young man that was shot in the back. The lady thought she was using a taser. We got to be careful not to lump all of these in one case, and we're going to have to look at it and take it on a case-by-case basis.
Yep.
I think LeBron maybe was a little premature because the information is that a 17-year-old was 17-year-old was shot, and she didn't have anything. And come to find out, we see what transpired, and that's a lot different than George Floyd. That's a lot different than the young man that was shot in the back. So we got to be careful. Also, LeBron, he made I think even bigger mistake, Skip, is by putting the officer's picture up, because it left to interpretation by what he said. Oh, he's next. And so now the people that didn't like that you're speaking out, doesn't like what you have to say see, I told you. And Skip, as I was sitting there and I was thinking about this and I knew we were going to talk about this, I said, you know what? It dawned on me. This is why Michael Jordan never touched this. This is the very reasons why. He said, you know what, Skip? I would rather say nothing and have people say, well, Mike, I wish you do this, or Mike, I wish you do that, as opposed to saying something and then get skewed for it. Mm-hmm. LeBron has to know, he has to be very, very careful, because LeBron's words carry weight. And he left to interpretation. Is he really putting a picture of this officer up saying he's next? That was left to interpretation. I don't believe that's what LeBron meant, but that's what's left to interpretation. And without, Skip, when you and I talk, you know exactly where we stand. Sometimes tweets, sometimes picture doesn't tell the whole story of what a person is trying to convey. That's what I love about this show. We have 2.5 hours,
yep,
and we get an opportunity. There is no middle ground. There is no misunderstanding where Shannon Sharp or Skip Bayless stand on a particular topic, because we've had an opportunity to lay out what we want to say and how we want to say it. I just think the thing is that, Skip, because America is on the edge right now, and we might have jumped the gun, and I don't think LeBron was the only one that jumped the gun. I mentioned it yesterday when I was talking about Derek Chauvin guilty, but once you see the footage, and you're like, okay, that's a very different situation than George Floyd. Now, I get some people are going to say, it's funny how the officers show discretion and restraint in certain situations when the roles are reversed. When, say the victim, this young lady, Ma'Khia Bryant, is a victim now, when she's Black, and we've seen white, say, well, swinging knives and doing things and everything, they talk to him and they do all they can to just de-escalate the situation. But I just think the thing was LeBron was on edge, considering what just happened with the George Floyd situation. And you hear in his home, Skip, he's from Ohio. I think this is in Columbus. Mm-hmm. So not right around the corner from Cleveland, but it's still, it's his home, neck of the woods. And I think the bigger mistake was putting the officer's picture up, and then because he left to interpretation, and that's what you don't want to have happen. You don't want people to speculate what you mean. And those that do not like LeBron and were waiting for this opportunity to pounce, he gave them that opportunity.
Okay. It's pretty clear to me that LeBron, in this case, leaped before he looked closely at what had happened. I'm not going to criticize him for it. I'm definitely not going to condemn him for it because of what you just provided in the way of context. Right. Emotions are running hot and high right now. The irony is this incident took place about a half hour before we all heard the verdict from Minneapolis on Derek Chauvin.
Correct.
Which is almost mind-bogglingly incomprehensible to me in the first place. But it did happen because life goes on.
It was just like, Skip, I said the guy's name was Deontay Price. Is Deontay's right. Deontay Wright. And remember, he died. The trial was just going on with Derek Chauvin. It was 10 miles away. So you're dealing with that. You have this, and then you have this young lady on top of that.
So, obviously, LeBron caught up in the runaway emotions that everybody in this country is feeling on different levels.
Correct.
But he at the highest level.
Correct.
He overreacted, as millions of people do on a daily basis on these social mediums.
Correct.
They can be incredibly dangerous. We've all been victims of, we've all gone wrong on social media, where even if I can take it down to the almost irrelevant game tweets that we all do. Every once in a while you tweet something on the fly in the middle of a game, and then you find out after the game, oh, it was that way. I didn't know that. Well, how can you know? You're tweeting in the heat of the moment.
Exactly.
So we've all been guilty of that.
Correct.
Obviously, LeBron James has the most powerful platform in all of sports, and you can argue one of the most powerful platforms in the world.
Correct.
And he has done nothing but great when it comes to social justice, racial justice, campaigning, using his social platforms.
Correct.
He has 49.6 million Twitter followers.
Right.
He has 82.5 million Instagram followers. This was a tweet followed by a couple of more tweets. Obviously, along with that great power comes even greater responsibility. And he's still a very young man, and this is all new to him. So he'll learn a small lesson here as he goes forward that, okay, I got to look before I leap. I got to make sure what I'm talking about.
And LeBron is very good about this, Skip. He's very, very calculated, because there have been times that people have asked him to step out. He says, I don't know enough about it. He says, I'll read up on it, and I'll get back to you on this situation. So he's normally very, very calculated, very methodical before he does something like this. But like you said, Skip, with the tension, and I think the biggest thing for a Black American is that we're just tired of seeing people that look like us dying in the streets at the hand of the police.
Totally understand and appreciate that. And in LeBron's defense, I watched post-game interviews last night in which Chris Paul and Bam Adebayo both brought up, is it Makia or Makai? I don't know. They said Makia. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but whichever. Forgive me for that. But,
thank you.
But they both brought her up, and they were both outraged, as LeBron was outraged. And I'm assuming they didn't know all the details at that point, but they were extending their sympathy to the family, which still applies, obviously, no matter what happened. Okay.
I think, because the thing, Skip, you look at it, she's still like, she's a child.
She's 16.
She's a child.
Okay. So I do not want to attempt to try this case in the court of public opinion, but let's try to walk through it, because we did get to see the body camera video.
Correct.
And I'm assuming you
watched it. I have seen it.
Okay, so the white officer, they get a 911 call, and reportedly, according, I believe, to her mom, she was the one who called 911 because she felt she was under threat.
Right, she was being threatened by
some other women.
Older girls in the place.
And she lives in a foster home, and she said that other older girls/women at the foster home were threatening her.
Correct.
Somehow this all adjourned out into this driveway.
Right.
And it's a large group of people in the driveway. So the white officer pulls up on the fly, and he leaps out. You can see him running.
Right.
And he yells, "What's going on here?" And just as he yells that, she appears, but she is brandishing the knife at one woman, who stumbles and falls backward, and a man runs into the body cam video and kicks her while she's down on the fly, which is probably pretty shocking to the cop. Like, what is going on?
Right.
Then Ms. Bryant then wheels on another woman who's sort of pinned up against the car.
Correct.
And appears to go to stab her with this knife.
Right.
She does clearly have a knife in her hand. And the officer yells, "Get down, get down." I don't know how many times, maybe 3 times.
3 or 4, yes.
Just bam, bam, bam.
Right.
And then speaking of bam, 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 then he fires not 1 shot, 4 shots.
Right.
Which to me seems excessive, but I would not have wanted to be in that flashpoint decision moment that officer got thrust into.
Skip, you have to understand, he gets a call and it's okay, someone is being threatened. He pulls up. What's going